So there it is, my mixer. It's on power on, and the cable's plugged into the wall, as you can see. It's just for a test, that's why you see my napkins there. But there you have it. No power, even though it's plugged in and turned on. And in fact, I can actually turn the phantom power on, which, you know, for those geeks out there is for the condenser mics, but no mixer power. What about my Acer laptop? Nope, not working. So I thought, hey, well, at least my Pro Tools works, right? I've been working with Pro Tools for 19 years, using it as the digital audio workstation of choice. Nope, what about this new Pro Tools first? No, what? Not responding. Fail. Fail. Surely my soundboard will work, won't it? So as you can tell, this new update to Mac has definitely messed up a lot of things, but, you know, it's the workaround. And the thing that's really funny about this is that it brings me back to this place where we've been looking at technology and the advancements of science and all these kinds of things and reporting on it, and it just makes you think, like, really, transhumanists and cyborgists and whoever else out there that's already starting to merge with technology, this is what you want to merge with? The stuff that just, you know, constantly updates and fails and breaks. And I mean, what is the wasteland of apps look like? The apps and projects and stuff that just died because it couldn't continue on with the adaptation of the latest cutting edge. And so it's a really weird transition, but it's with that notion of my equipment failing this week and having Gearmageddon over here that I want to introduce a few stories that has been published out there that you guys probably won't hear in other places, or maybe you will in some kind of context. But here it is. Here's the first one, marinelog.com. Video, MOL adds electric shock to virtual reality training. Japan's Mitsui OSK Lines Ltd. has added a new dimension to its virtual reality-based marine safety education program, allowing trainees to virtually capture the sensation of falling, having a hand being caught between something, and experiencing an incinerator explosion incident. The new content involves all the trainees' senses by introducing new equipment that replicates the touching and sensing they would experience during an onboard accident, taking the training to a new level of realism. Oy oy oy, that is crazy. Electric shock, in particular, says MOL, quote, trainees may feel an electric shock and at an extremely low current, but that could be ramped up. Oh boy, this is crazy. Administered by the controller. Yeah, what if the controller is a psychopath, sociopath, crazy person? Which is where this is all headed. Or maybe it's been done already, all these experiments. But anyway, in my opinion, yes, absolutely it has. As well as hear and see the situation and feel vibration through the VR goggles, this is intended to connect the training to instinctive learning by recreating the experience of an actual accident, end quote. The program uses VR goggles and VR technology created by Tsumiki Seisaku Company Ltd. With the VR tool, trainees can experience onboard operations with computer graphics simulations of moving around on the ship in conjunction with their own movements, allowing them to pinpoint dangerous areas and situations. If a crew works without recognizing a danger, there's a higher likelihood of an accident or problem, says MOL. The VR-based content enables them to think about issues that require extra care and help them plan their next moves during onboard operations. So let's check this out here. Oh, yep, wonderful. More things breaking, more things not working. All right, switch browsers here, and yeah, you guys should pick up the Brave browser if you haven't already. I just registered my domain and website and the YouTube channel and everything on Brave. So basically, it's the basic attention token thing. I'm not going to get into it here, but I'll leave a link in the description if you guys are interested. Also, all these videos are being published on Bitchute. A link will be in the description for that as well. But let's get back to this. Brave, hopefully you work. Yay, video works. All right, so here we go. VR training. All right, this guy's doing his little thing here. All right. Kind of cool. That's actually kind of neat. I mean, I guess it's better than actually getting burned. Interesting. This is, if you guys are used to just listening, this might be a little boring because I'm watching this VR thing happen here. It's almost over. Oh, we don't... Oh! Okay, so there you go. That was the simulation and the sudden explosion. I mean, I don't know what he did wrong there. He turned the knob he was supposed to turn. So what did he do wrong? I don't know. Anyway, so there you have it. Electroshock therapy? No, training. Electric shock and virtual reality training. You knew this was coming. You knew this was going to be part of something they're going to develop. And this sort of thing is going to be the different layers that are going to be part of this VR explosion in the market. Everyone's going to have VR, and everyone's going to have different products and services and additional things to make things more real, and all of it. It's going to be absolutely insane, and it really is the Tower of Babel days all over again. And this reminds me of a story. It's a little bit old now, and I know you guys had mentioned it in the comments and stuff, but this is WAPO. WAPO. In appeal to young Catholics, Vatican unveils the eRosary, an electric way to pray, and basically it keeps track of your prayers, and this little cross here records all your movements and records all your prayers, and even has a little app to go with it to suggest prayers. And if you look at this, I mean, it already has contemplative as one of the options. That's already going into the mystic side of things, and no good, no go, no bueno for this type of thing. The eRosary. Do you really need that and keep track of your prayers? The gamification of all of this, we've talked about this on this channel. The gamifying of everything, including your prayers. And Basil had mentioned in Canary Cry Newstalk when we reported this story last week on CCNT, the fine print or the details on that. Who controls the data? Who gets to see it? Because if it's the Vatican, now we have the Vatican spying on all of these Catholics out there that are the young, hip Catholics who are going to be wearing their eRosary and keeping track of their prayers. Now the Vatican has a ledger and a database to keep track of all of that for you. And obviously, that's that's what's happening with everything. Everything's being put into data structures, and they're going to be used to be analyzed and to control our behavior. And it's already working, as we'll see how many people actually get into this. I just wanted to touch on this one. I know many people have shared it and talked about it, so I'm not going to get too far into it. Although, just as a reminder, hashtag don't take the mark. I mean, if there's anything that's resembling that sort of thing within the church, they should at least look at this and say, not the best idea, not the most comfortable item to be promoting out there in light of these types of technological advancements. And here's another story from the virtual reality world that ties into this sort of thing, the tracking of everything and collecting the data. This is Reuters. Hong Kong student takes protest to virtual world. Hong Kong, obviously, the center of a lot of turmoil right now, and I have my ideas about that I'll share maybe a little bit later. But it says here, a group of Hong Kong students have developed a virtual reality game they hope will allow people to experience the anti-government demonstration from the view of a frontline protester. I don't know if this is the actual video for it, but we'll click play to see what happens. And nothing. The short but detailed first-person game demonstrated to Reuters in a shabby high-rise industrial block allows players to dodge tear gas, duck behind burning barriers, and run from riot police. Quote, "It allows you to experience what crisis the frontline protesters might have been through," says Lam, a 30-year-old developer who covered her face and did not want to give her full name because she has participated in the often illegal protests. Quote, "That does not mean you will have to go out after playing the game. We hope people that fight for freedom will go out anyway." So, interesting. They're trying to sympathize or empathize with the actual protesters in this type of technology. And again, this sort of thing is behavior shaping by allowing these kinds of experiences. And that's a lot of what gaming is. If you really think about it, it's for entertainment purposes on one end, but along with that, what comes is the collection of behavioral data. And if you don't believe me, there's stories like this one. The Daily Iowan Advanced Virtual Reality Tech helps UI scientists study pedestrian behavior. State-of-the-art technologies at the Hank Lab combines psychology and computer science to study pedestrian behavior. And I won't get into it here, but basically, you get the gist of it here with the headline. And now, this type of data, again, is going to be used probably for political purposes, for different kinds of legislation and things of that nature. And we're going to see more and more of this. But what's the bigger picture here? Where is this all really headed? Well, if we go to places like phys.org here, technology will not save us from climate change, but imagining new forms of society will. They're trying to, and they're going to, transform society with the technology, the advancements here. And I think part of it has been this Hegelian dialectic where we are so sick from all the GMOs and we're getting chemically doused all the time, and just our overall health is being deteriorated, and it works as a benefit for both things in terms of the elite, evil elite thinking, because they can, on one hand, dumb down part of civilization or society. They can dumb down a certain population, and they're going to just follow along and just believe everything that comes through the mainstream public outlets, and they're just really, truly become the sheeple of the world, and they have them as sort of quarantined away from other people who are a little bit more aware of what's going on. Because here's the idea. They knew that there's going to be an uprising. A certain level of the population is going to wake up. They're going to rise. And so part of this Hegelian dialectic is, let's make it really bad, really, really bad for everybody around the world with these innovations and invasive technologies, that they're going to want something different. They're going to want something new and better. And let's guide them. Let's help them do that. And so here's where I think we need to be very watchful in the developments of these things, because it's really easy to be labeled under one banner of like, it's all going to hell in a handbasket, and all of it is evil, period. But that's not how the things work. That's not how progression works, because the idea here is personal responsibility in terms of what you do with that technology. So if you're harming people with the technology, then obviously that is not good. But as the technology and the abilities to control scales, this is what's been part of the problem, where the rich get richer, the poor get poorer, the middle class gets wiped out. All of that economically is just a way to visualize the actual power structure here. And it's been really consolidating at the top as these technologies have advanced, to the point where I think, as we've discussed before on this channel and beyond, a breakaway civilization, whether that be for some kind of space travel. And for those of you who don't believe in space, it doesn't matter, because not that I do. I actually am very skeptical of it, although, again, I'm kind of agnostic in terms of what it is. I believe there's a firmament of some kind, and that's as far as I'm going to go. Beyond that, the waters, I've talked about it before on the channel, so I'm not going to get into it. But anyway, in terms of this elite class that's breaking away from the rest of civilization, it's stratifying civilization in various degrees, because as they launch away and get further and further away from basic normal human civilization, they're going to leave this trail of damage, but also plenty of rebellion and rise that's going to come against them. And ultimately, they're going to use that for their benefit, because now the slaves, all of us, we're going to help build their utopian dream, because they can't do it alone. They need everybody that's aware and awake, to some degree anyway. They need those people to participate in this grandeur system utopia that they believe is going to come to them via their own control and power. And that's where really we talk about the Antichrist, we talk about the beast system, and everyone's looking for a specific individual person or a place. And certainly there are many things to investigate regarding those issues, historically, currently, and projecting into the future. It all, I think, is necessary, and in terms of debate, it's all part of the greater sort of investigation of these issues, which is really the calling of the watchman to keep watch of all these things. But it becomes very clear that this breakaway civilization is propagandizing not just the dumb sheeple, but also eventually this middle class area that is rising up. And that's what we're seeing all around the world. All the protests happening everywhere around the world, they are going to cause change. And look, the controllers control. They know what they're doing. They know that people are going to rise up. They know people are going to, take to the streets and stuff like that. Fantastic for them, because this is going to help them build the change that they want and guide it in a certain way and help them. It'll be like, hey, we're working together. And it goes beyond just any location. The technology itself is really what I'm talking about, because, okay, let me get back to this article here. Technology will not save us from climate change, but imagining new forms of society will. And let me just read a couple paragraphs here to get you guys up to date and aware of what these people are talking about here at phys.org. Citizen action on climate change has reached a new intensity. School children by the thousands regularly skip school to protest, and Extinction Rebellion's civil disobedience recently caused widespread disruption in cities around the world. Challenge and disruption is important in promoting change. Really? But it's also key that we consider and show how a zero carbon future could work in practice. This is where the field of social innovation, the development of new ideas that meet social needs, is coming of age. Yes, social technologies. The president of China just announced that they are going to basically be investing in building blockchain technology. Now, I've talked about blockchain also before. The idea here, the real important thing is to have a decentralized system, not a centralized system. And China's blockchain economy is largely centralized through corporation or through their own central bank, which they're going to issue through all the big companies. This is a very, very highly controlled surveillance state emerging in China. And I know some people in the crypto world are excited because some of the coins went up in price recently because of this announcement. Some of the Chinese coins went up. But ultimately, what's happening here is a very double-edged sword. It's going to clean up a lot of industry, but also going to create this next-level surveillance state operation coming out of China. And I think this is why out here in the West, we're lagging behind, but that's probably on purpose too, because it feels like out here in the West, they want more death and destruction. I don't mean to be fear-mongering, but I really feel that way, because especially in California here, as they continue to burn California and power outages and all kinds of stuff happening out here, we need to really be praying about this stuff, because the believers that are out there that know what's going on, they're out there. I know you are out there. You're watching this right now. You're way more aware than your fellow believer in church. And I say that not arrogantly. I just say that as a matter of fact, because this is true. And I'm not saying that makes you a better Christian or anything like that. I'm just saying that as believers, as all of us, a community of brothers and sisters in Christ out there, if you're watching this video and videos like it from channels with like-minded people, you know that there's this mega push happening for all these changes, and now the rubber's starting to meet the road hardcore as we dive into the 2020s. And so what is going to be our mode of operation? All the prepping stuff is starting to make sense now, a lot more in terms of the practicality. So obviously it's been ongoing for a long time, but now as they start to shape a new generation of children into this mold of this crazy dystopian mega complex of the beast system, we're going to have to keep preaching Christ. That is the only way out of this thing. And that's the only thing that makes sense. Again, getting back to what I was saying before, all the prophecies, all the stuff that we talk about, this one world system, this final beast that crushes all the other three beasts into one conglomerate beast that takes over all tribes, nations, tongues. That thing is unfolding right now. And it's going to, I don't know, I'm not going to put a timeline on it because, look, I'm not here to set dates. But in terms of if it keeps moving at the rate that it's moving, and if it continues to impact our society and reshaping legislation, reshaping what it means to be a nation state, reshaping what it means to be a military, all these things, we are literally headed right down to the book of Revelation unfolding in our lifetime, or at least something like it. Especially with all the VR, people could get trapped in this sort of state of being dead but not dead, and have these mind uploads and a bunch of people there doing this weird Cyber-Hive thing that's going to obviously be part of a mark of the beast and specifically the worship of the image. But let me get back to this article here. There's a section, investing in hardware in the late 19th and early 20th centuries. A huge shift occurred in support of institutionalized science, which moved from being primarily a military concern, better warships or rifles, or a matter of enthusiastic amateurs, to becoming much more systematic. Governments invested large sums in research laboratories and universities, along a huge growth of spending on military technology, which constitutes more than 50% of public R&D in the U.S. Big firms set up R&D labs. The shares of GDP devoted to R&D crept up to around 2% in countries like the UK and closer to 4% in others like Korea and Finland. The result was a tide of new technologies that has changed every aspect of our lives. Unfortunately, rapid innovation in hardware wasn't matched by equally restless innovation in society. The same is true today. Large sums of public money are spent advancing aerospace and pharmaceuticals, but little comparable is done to innovate in homelessness or loneliness. Interesting use there of one that's a physical problem and one that is a psychological problem. Because that's another thing. They're going to start tackling all the psychological issues, not through pharmaceuticals, because obviously no one likes that. People are struggling with that. But the advancements therein also pose this problem of more invasive technologies. The result has been a chronic gap between technological and economic dynamism on the one hand and social stagnation on the other, and it's the latter that often fuels resistance to necessary action on climate change. It's always climate change with these folks, isn't it? You turn red, climate change. As head of the UK government strategy unit, I was closely involved in setting strategy on climate change in the early 2000s, yada, yada, yada. Social tools. I don't know why this is highlighted. Something about Obama and Gavin Newsom setting up social innovation offices, as well as countries as Malaysia and Canada also having national strategies for social innovation. And that's the United States as well. This is the whole part of the problem, I think, with the whole Trump people, everybody being on board with Trump and the whole cleanup situation. Yeah, good. Let's clean up. Let's get some people in jail or whatever. But that's not going to really change the fact that they're still turning this system into a social credit score system. It already is one in many ways with the social security number and everything else. But this is next level. And the problem with the United States is that we are armed, basically, right? So it's harder to implement this sort of across-the-board, full-scale type of system that they can in other countries like China, or even, Russia's kind of in between, but they're coming along too with this type of thing. So anyway, this social stuff is really at the front edge of the change happening, and it's being seen through the culture, through music, entertainment, all that stuff, all the propaganda and everything that we've talked about and other shows have exposed. It's all leading to a mindset. And what is that mindset? To accept this new form of society. And it's going to involve a spirituality. And that's something that, again, we've been tracking a lot on this channel. But stories like this, which is a little bit older, published on inevitablehuman.com by Inevitable Human on April 23rd, 2019. What if we used AI to rewrite the Bible? About 2 years ago, the internet had a heart attack when they heard the former head of a self-driving car division at Google and Uber was creating a church that would worship an AI god. Yes, if you guys remember, we reported on this. The story ran the press circuit for about a week, and then everyone forgot. Except folks like us, folks like you guys, who keep track of this. Circling back around the topic, about 2 weeks ago, I was on an Inevitable Human digital hangout to hear what other future thinkers were thinking about the topic of AI religion. One of these future thinkers, Russell, joined the hangout and we discussed the concept of using AI to rewrite the Bible. Upon doing some research, we quickly found that we weren't the only creators inspired by this prompt, so rather than reinvent the wheel, I thought I'd echo some of the coolest findings. John Lynch showcased on his website iv.ai, and he trained an AI to write new verses of the King James Bible. The results could have been easily transplanted into the Bible I've read many times almost without noticing. And I guess this is just 13:12. Abram dwelled in the land beside the first 7 fat kine. And it shall come to pass when he overthrew those cities and that which grew up on the cattle should be alone. I will bless thee and will give unto thee and make mention of me unto this day. Okay. Similarly, Tobias Hermann, interesting name, recreated scriptures of the Bible. However, he turned it into an interesting game called Divine or Benign. It's a game in which you are given a scripture and must determine whether it's a real passage or one generated by AI. It's quite fun. Let's give it a go here. Maybe we can make this into a segment of Canary Cry Newstalk, or maybe even this channel here. Okay, so let's give this a try here. Thou wilt walking, thy shall be no herded, and sat there I maketh down Eris. That sounds like an artificial intelligent machine to me. I'm correct. Next one. And I will pass them for their perfine tribute to lay their place. I'm not very familiar with the King James Bible. I mean, I read it, but I'm not very good with memory verses with that. But I don't think perfine is a word in the Bible, even in the King James. Oh, there you go. I was correct. And Noah did according unto all that the Lord commanded him. That sounds legit. Yep, Genesis 7:5. All right, doing good so far. But I life make a disciples, and in many peoples after thy soul. Okay, see, that one's confusing because it sounds like it's something that would be kind of King Jamesy, but I'm not too King Jamesy familiar in terms of these passages. So, okay, but I life make a disciples, and that's got to be AI. I'm right. No one, even King James doesn't have that horrible grammar. Okay. Fools make a mock at sin, but among the righteous there is favor. Oh, that sounds like a proverb. Proverbs 14:9. Here we go. 5 for 5. Next round. Ye shall be to war, said unto me. Thus saith the Lord God, into a weeping. Ye shall be to war, said unto me. Thus saith the Lord God, into a weeping. Again, sounds like it could be in the Bible, but I think it's benign. Yep. Next round. For when ye were the servants of sin, ye were free from righteousness. Wait a minute. For when ye were the servants of sin, you were free from righteousness. Interesting choice of words, but sounds very New Testament-y. I'm going to say divine. Romans 6:0. Yeah, I don't think that's right. Maybe 6:10. I think it's Romans 6:20. But anyway, this is all weird. Next round. Doing well. 7 for 7. Should I stop now? I feel like I should stop. I feel like I'm going to miss this next one. That thy beloved may be delivered, save with thy right hand and hear me. Again, I think it kind of sounds like a psalm, but we'll see. Psalm 60 verse 5, is that right? Okay, cool. Next round. And Eram am forting and bear, but not, nor wise any of this dost. What? And Eram am forting. He's forting, everybody. I think it's AI. Yep. Yeah. There's no forting in the King James Bible. A wound and dishonor shall he get, and his reproach shall not be wiped away. That sounds definitely legit in Scripture. Proverbs 6:3, it says, unless this is all messed up here and it's wrong. Hey, 10 for 10. Your answer was correct. My score, 100%. Hey, I'll leave a link to this if you guys want to play against the AI. Back to this article. For all the developers that want to test the waters themselves, Nilesh Kumar developed an entire how-to manual for other programmers to create their own version of the Bible using a GAN, a generative adversarial network. Really? A generative adversarial network. What is the devil called in the Bible? He's the adversary, and they're creating the generative adversarial network to rewrite the Bible. Okay, whatever. Sliba Paul also detailed his entire process of thinking that went into recreating one book in the Bible, which he would call the Gospel of LSTMs, LSTMs stands for long short-term memory, a type of algorithm variant of RNN, recurrent neural network. However, in my opinion, the coolest conclusion to come out of these experiments was Elias Mahana on the Fast Forward podcast, who theorized the idea of a religious matchmaking service. If an algorithm can tell me what kind of music I'm likely to want to listen to based on my previous listening habits on Pandora, why can't it also tell me what sort of faith system would be best for me? Let's say if somebody were to say, this year I'm going to read these 10 religious texts, and I'm going to read them in a format that I devise where I can essentially mark them up using semantic markup, and I'm going to give a thumbs up to paragraphs or verses that I find compelling and interesting, and thumbs down to things that I don't like. An algorithm could then go through that entire body and cobble together a very useful sort of Amazon suggests these 5,000 words as the core of your own religion. And actually that is kind of interesting, but you don't really need to do that. I mean, I guess it's just more data for you. It's useful for you, but it's also useful for those who may not have your best interest in mind. Undoubtedly, there was a lot of shock value to come from this whole line of a godlike AI. Personally, I think the idea of a unified religious text that brings together the passages of all religions is fascinating. The only thing I worry about, though, is which charismatic leader would get their hands on this powerful text, how they would use it, and what hidden intentions they had. Interesting, inevitable human, that you would question that or have that as a sort of fear aspect or uncertainty aspect of this AI rewriting the Bible, because obviously the Bible itself predicts and prophesies these things taking place. And so even the inevitable human cannot deny that these things are happening. But, they're not really willing to admit that the Bible says that. Or maybe he does. I don't know. I don't know all the views of the inevitable human here, but it looks to me like maybe they're for some of these things that are not as good, like a social credit system, natural evolution, or improving society. Well, they're probably going to argue that it's a little bit of both, but likely say that it's improving society, right? Well, let's see what they say. We build digital trust through reviews and ratings. What if this were applied to all aspects of life as a means of creating a social credit score for every person's character? Honest, giving, good-natured people had high scores, while the evil and mischievous had poor scores, and depending on your score, access to certain services would be given or curtailed. China has introduced early iterations of a social credit system to which most have reached with a dystopian narrative projection. In reality, a social credit system is closer to us in the West than you'd imagine. That's actually true. What exactly does a social credit system entail? Check out the video. Okay, let's look at the video. It's 5 minutes though. I don't know if I got 5 minutes to dedicate, and it's not working. So once again, this application, we want to apply it to the whole society with this technology that doesn't work. I'm going to keep clicking here just for emphasis. So you get the point. I'm going to end with this. I was in Barnes & Noble yesterday, and in the science section, there was a book titled End Times by Brian Walsh, a brief guide to the end of the world, asteroids, supervolcanoes, rogue robots, and more. And in it, here are the chapters, and the thing that jumped out at me: artificial intelligence, summoning the demon. Just straight quote of Elon Musk and acknowledging it in the science section's End Times book. And then aliens, where is everybody? Survival, the day after. The end, why we fight. So the order here they have disease, they have biotech, AI, aliens, and then a survival of the end. I think it's very fascinating that it's not just like crazy fringy Christians talking about this. All of a sudden, everybody's talking about it. In the science community, everyone's discussing it. And it's almost inevitable. They see the tidal wave coming. But the fact that they have to humanize it and say, oh, this is, we're fighting for the human spirit and all these kinds of things, is really the downfall, because that's what's going to lead to another level of corruption and horrific control and everything else. Because look, somebody brought up, and I was listening to the Edward Snowden interview on Joe Rogan and a couple other interviews with people on other shows that talk about these issues of surveillance and technology and all this kind of stuff, and what people are capable of now, and what if that gets into the wrong hands. That's kind of the long-standing fear of any kind of advancing technologies coming from the intelligence agents themselves, or people who are high level, that are public with these things, they all say, hey, we have to protect it, we have to control it, because what if it gets into the wrong hands? And the thing is, prophetically, that's going to happen. It's going to fall into the wrong hands, the ultimate wrong hands. It's going to fall into Satan's hands himself, or the spawn of Satan himself in the Antichrist, the man of sin. And that's not going to be a pretty world. And that's going to curtail a lot of these things to a certain level of the population who are going to buy into it and take the mark and all those things. And so that's why I'm here, others are here, to talk to you guys and tell you guys and warn you guys, to warn your friends and family. And it's not, it's not like a thing that's going to happen tomorrow, although you never know. One event can really shift the projection or trajectory of all of these things and how they develop and how they deploy, because we know that at least here in America, they're trying to destabilize everything, and they've done a pretty good job with it, but it's still a long ways to go before we have all these crazy smart cities and people plugging themselves into their brains directly. I mean, that's kind of a long way away, or seems like a long way away, but the technologies are available. They just need the kind of social change or social update in order for that to actually take place and disseminate into society, which, in my opinion, is going to, at the very least, shadow and I think in more reality fulfill the prophecies that we see written in the book of Revelation and other eschatological passages. So hope you guys get something out of this. And obviously there's a lot more to say on all of these topics and issues, and I can go on and on and on forever, but to keep it short, to keep it as concise as possible, I'll end it here. Thank you guys for watching. Please subscribe. And that's one thing I wanted to say before we end it here. So YouTube has been keeping me under 260,000 subs for the entire year now. And I'm just curious if you guys are watching, if you guys aren't subscribed. If you are subscribed, great. Thank you guys. I know some of you guys, a lot of people constantly get messages, other YouTubers, I mean, get the same message that I've been getting, which is that people are saying, hey, I've been unsubscribed to your channel and I didn't unsubscribe from your channel. YouTube's just kicking me off. And that's definitely happening. So make sure to check if you're subscribed, because I'm really curious if people are really unsubscribing by the hundreds, and sometimes, or a couple times at least, it's been in the thousands in just a span of a day or two. But it looks like YouTube is holding us down under 260,000 subs. And so I was curious, if you're out there and you're not subbed, please sub to the channel just as an experiment to see if we can crack through that 260K and if YouTube will do anything if we crack through that 260,000 sub count. So anyway, that's going on. You can support the channel through Patreon. Thank you guys so much. All you patrons out there are really appreciated. And that's partly another reason why I wanted to maybe put some stuff on Bitchute and make it available there instead of a private video on YouTube. I think that's the way to go moving forward. So, that being said, hope you guys have an awesome day. God bless.